Welcome to this webinar, How to Validate and Grow a Startup Without Funding. My name is Justin Vincent and I will be your host. Okay, so the agenda of this webinar, first of all, we'll do some quick introductions. Who am I? Who is Laura? And then we're going to go through these three main topics. So the main reason why we're here is to learn how to validate and grow a startup without funding. But I always believe it's important to understand why. Why do you want to learn something? So we'll go through what the problem with the investor growth model is, how the bootstrapped growth model changes that equation. Then we'll get to the meat of it, which is how to validate and grow a startup without funding. And then we'll just have a quick 2 to 3 minute look inside the academy. All right, so let's get started with introductions. I am Justin Vincent. I live in Los Angeles with my wife, Georgie, and my son, Jack. I actually live in Pasadena. And you may know Pasadena through because of the Big Bang Theory and maybe JPL, and also Einstein lived here for a little bit. But I think Pasadena is famous because actually this is where Elon Musk's girlfriend lives. Okay, so in my day job, I'm on the founding team and CTO of an ed tech company. Pretty successful. We've raised $10 million. We're in over 75 school districts, and we have 35 employees. In my evening time, I basically am very passionate about side projects, and that's sort of my hobby. Like a lot of people have hobbies like soccer or tennis. My hobby is to build side projects. I absolutely love that. I'm a full stack entrepreneur, and I built the social media dashboard called Plugio, which I bootstrap and sold, and really enjoyed that process. Built it, designed it, all that stuff, and ultimately made around $250,000 from that project. Nugget was something that came after that, and it started off as an idea platform. It has 4,000 ideas, and you can join Nugget right now, Nugget.one. You can get those ideas. You can get access to those ideas for free. But one thing that one thing that I noticed through working with hundreds of founders in Nugget is that ideas are simply not enough. And that's the reason why, this was through talking with lots of founders. And that's the reason why I started the Nugget Startup Academy and realized that training was going to be a majorly important thing for those founders. So I created the Startup Academy, which is a virtual incubator and training program to help founders start a profitable side project. It's worth noting we've got 150 lessons, steps, and actions in that. And only one of those actions ask founders to go through the original 4,000 ideas. So the other 149 are all about all the other stuff it takes to build a profitable side project. So something else that I've had going on during all this time is as a co-host of a podcast called TechSing. So I've been co-host of this for the last 9 years. We've interviewed 50 founders, including Patrick Collison from Stripe, Travis Kalanick from Uber. So that's been good. So also on the line with me is Laura Janusek, who is my partner, who I've been working with in the EdTech company for the last 5 years. And she's product lead in that company, and she's on the founding team. She's a woman in tech speaker, and she is my partner in Nugget. Laura, are you there?
And Justin will be leading this webinar, but I'll be on the chat. So feel free to post any questions or comments, and I'll be in there chatting with you guys. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, thanks so much. And so as I mentioned, Laura is the Academy co-founder and also the instructional designer. So she's helped me get my bootstrapping knowledge and turn it into a really good instructional format. All right, moving forward. So the first thing I wanted to discuss is the problem with the investor first growth model. So let's get into that. Well, before we get into the problems, let's talk about the fact that the investor growth model actually does work. It's created hundreds of thousands of wealthy founders. Successful VCs do make a lot of money. The issue is that the deck has, because these guys know this so well, the deck has been stacked to the nth degree, and the investor is always put first. There are actually many, many reasons why self-funding is, in my opinion, the best way to start a startup and then join the VC track later on. So let's start this whole thing with a question. What do founders actually want? Well, from speaking to hundreds of founders, it's my understanding that what founders really want is wealth, control, meaning, and freedom. So when they want those things and when they're looking for those things, they're looking in the world around them. What do they see? Well, if you look at the press, you see that Unicorns are fascinating. There's so many stories about unicorns. It's an absolute classic. It happens all the time. A 20-year-old starts a startup and becomes a billionaire. Facebook, Snapchat, Uber, DoorDash, and we read about those stories in TechCrunch and other articles all the time. And it just so happens that we know as founders that VCs are hunting unicorns, so let's make one. And we think about unicorns and we think about the kind of business models that make unicorns, and usually we'll ignore smaller conventional profit-driven ideas. So our focus will be to think go big or go home. The thing about the VC growth model is that it doesn't actually exist outside of the VC ecosystem. VCs are really at the center of this onion. VCs created this onion. They stack the deck. And the key thing to note is that growth is the driver, not revenue. Operations are paid for by investors, not profits. Your key strategy is to grab market share, in many cases, before you understand the business model. Growth is often purchased rather than word of mouth, viral spreading. And oftentimes the goal is to raise bigger rounds and staying alive by raising those rounds. Sometimes it can take absolutely years to uncover a profitable business model. And this is quite attractive, the way that this is marketed in the press and the way that it comes across to founders. And that's the reason why 2 million teams every year seek VC model funding. So of those 2 million teams who go into that funnel, they have their idea, they think about getting funding. 1,500 of them are funded by VCs, 50,000 are funded by angels, and 1.95 million teams give up every year. So the interesting thing about that, for any tech guys on the call or tech girls, you'll know that a single point of failure is something that you don't want. You want distributed systems, and you want to try and not have single points of failure. Well, fundraising is a single point of failure for 2 million plus founders every year. And it doesn't matter for investors because they still get the deal flow they need, but it's not so great for 97% of founders. And the thing with this is that raising funds is its own ecosystem. It's its own job in its own right. It takes months of effort, if not years. I have a friend who spent 3 years just to get to his first round, just his first seed funding. And so you have to learn pitch decks, business models. You've got to go to a lot of networking events. You've got to hunt for investors. You've got to learn about pitching. And if you do get signed up, then you've got to learn about negotiating terms and just so that you don't get too screwed. So when you do get funded, if you do get funded, startups that succeed raising funds will actually fail 75% of the time. So you've got a 3% chance of raising funds, then a 25% chance of success. So a 0.7% chance getting in from the top of the funnel, just coming up with your idea, thinking I'm going to do a startup, and a 0.7% chance of building something that creates return for investors. Now, I do want to note, and by the way, it's not just me saying that's coming from a Harvard business study, but that's the kind of industry trends, but I want to point out that Y Combinator is a bit of a leading light. Their stats are 42,000 applied, 3% accepted, so there's 1,280 companies gone through Y Combinator. 85% of those are still operational, but still, even in the best of the best, it's a 97.45% chance of not getting anywhere when you start at the top of the funnel. So just continuing with this idea that you've been successfully funded, you're on the track. It's important to note that if you're not a rock star founder, it's amateurs versus professionals. If your startup is not going stratospheric, you're not going to be in a great position. These guys have done thousands of deals. Founders basically lose points on the edge with every deal. The house always wins as far as the VC deck is concerned, and it's their job. It's these guys' job to stack the deck in their favor, and they do it every day. So, a long story short, even once you're funded, startups put investors first. So with every round through A, B, C, founders will increasingly lose control to the point where they don't have complete control unless they're a rockstar founder. Investors will want to drive towards larger rounds for an exit, an IPO, or a sale. And you won't really see any true wealth for years. Even if your company's rocking, you've got to get to some kind of exit event. And investors get paid back first. So this is something that a lot of people don't understand. Basically, let's say this is like a kind of a medium case of I guess success. So I'm going to give you this is a typical thing that happens. So you might start with 50%. Your startup isn't going stratospheric. Over 6 years, you raise 20 million. maybe you go through 4 rounds, you'll end up with 20% due to dilution. You and your co-founder will not have control anymore, and the VCs involved may think, okay, I think we're going to sell this to some investment bankers, and we're going to sell it so that they can merge maybe 3 or 4 companies like this together. We'll do a stop loss sale for 30 million. Well, you will get 20% of 10 million, not the 30 million, because the investors will get paid back. So in this scenario, you'd make 2 million pre-tax. So just a quick recap of this investor first thinking and the model. So what do founders want? They want wealth, control, meaning, and freedom. They see that unicorns are very fascinating and interesting. They join the VC track. Every year, 2 million teams are in, 56,000 get funded. It's a single point of failure for 2 to 3 million founders every year. And it's also a full-time job just to get there. And if you do get funded, you've got a 25% chance of moving forward. I thought something that was also kind of interesting is that if we look at the stats over the last 10 years, 20 million teams have considered starting startups, and there's been 100 unicorns created. So it's a 0.005% chance of starting a unicorn based on the last 10 years statistics. And we'll have a look at the operational statistics in a few more slides. So moving on to how the bootstrap founder first growth model basically changes the equation. So what is the founder first growth model? Well, it's really consists of 2 parts. First of all, it's self-funded, bootstrapped, which means that you don't raise funds. And second of all, and this is the stuff that we've brought in through creating the academy and working with hundreds of founders, is a founder-centric opinion of the world. Basically, the founder is the center of the onion for all product and growth decisions. So let's have a look at the self-funded part first. The origins of the micro self-funded movement, where I first encountered it, was through Joel Spolsky's Business on Software forum, and I read a lot from Jason Fried, Rob Walling, who started the Micropreneur Academy, and a lot of this stuff comes through blogs and podcasts, conference and training. And the reason why I'm underlining micro is because a lot of people are talking about just starting low, getting your first $10, getting your first $100, making $1,000 monthly recurring revenue. And the interesting thing is, even though VCs think of this model as lifestyle business, if you actually look at the stats, pound for pound, there's been the same amount of unicorns have been created through this, people starting off with a side project as a micro side project and ending up as a unicorn. Here's some companies for you. So another key part of the self-funded thing is, let's learn from the best parts of the VC ecosystem. YC is a shining light here. Their core motto is make something people want. Lean Startup has been huge, excellent from Eric Ries. And Paul Graham says, when you start out, do things that don't scale. That's amazing advice. So make something people want, but profitable. So start with an idea primed for profit, not land grab. A little snowball that's got low surface area. You want to find something that people will pay for before you write a single line of code. Basically, you can get your major pivoting in before you launch. If you look back to these guys, these unicorns, pretty much when they first started earning their first money, you can see that it wasn't really a lot of pivots involved. Well, traditionally in the VC model, there's a lot of pivoting just to find your business model. But these guys knew their business model from day one. Okay, let's have a look at the founder first part. So founder first, as we understand it, and as we're kind of defining this, is to stack the deck in the favor of the founder in every possible way. It's a holistic view of each founder's career and product strategy. Those 2 things combined. So the founder strategy is a stair-stepping strategy to help the founder learn from the bottom up and steadily grow their knowledge and wealth. And the product strategy within the founder's story arc is a founder fit strategy with an emphasis on little snowball, bottom-up learning, small iterations, and gradual growth. So if we look at this slide here, this is the founder strategy slide. Basically, stair-stepping is the founder first version of VC rounds A, B, and C. So the very first thing you want to do is just to make that first $10. Then once you've validated that you can actually make $10, then you want to see, okay, can I grow this to 1,000 monthly recurring revenue? And there you're learning the kind of core skills of marketing, list building. And once you go beyond that, then you get to a $10,000 range. Now it's about growth. You've learned basic marketing. Now you see, can you do growth marketing? And once you get to a 50,000, then it's going to be all about learning about churn and scaling your product and building your team. And then if you get beyond that, then you get to mastery, basically. If you're earning 500,000 monthly recurring revenue, you've got so many options open to you. You can get debt capital, or you can go to the VC track. So the other thing is the founder is comfortable with each highly achievable step here. And could anything be a better example of this than MailChimp, who basically started a side project, 2 guys. They spent 2 years developing that side project. And it wasn't until they had 10,000 users that they decided, okay, I think we're going to go for this full time. It pretty much maps out to this stair-stepping growth chart that I said. And they're now earning 50 million monthly recurring revenue. Their company's worth 4.4 billion. And these 2 guys have 100% ownership of that. Can you imagine the leverage that these guys have if they were to look for investment? So the second part of this is the product strategy. So here we want to, once again, thinking about the founder, stack the deck in the favor of the founder. And I talk about this term force multipliers. And I kind of want you, if you look at the graphic at the bottom, see how the 2 lines, one's kind of heading for the target, one's heading for the way. The image that I always have in my mind is if you shoot a gun in space, it will go millions of miles in one direction. And if just before you shoot it, you just slightly tweak, you just move it 0.5 millimeter, it will go for millions of miles in another direction. So just a tiny, tiny adjustment sends that bullet off in a completely different direction. And so that's why we look at things like founder fit. We want to make sure that the product fits the founder because it increases the chances of the founder being successful. We want to make sure that it's a market that the founder can work in. We want to make sure that the product fits with the founder's lifestyle, that the product fits with the founder's skill set, so they're not doing something that they completely know nothing about. And want to make sure that the price point also works and that the founder's passionate about that. And then the other part is we want to optimize things by making sure that they work with a little snowball, which is a single facet idea. We want them to keep it simple. We want them to do really fast iterations, small steps, and just follow the power of gradualism. And just this idea of earning your first $10 is so important. I myself have been involved in the kind of the funded game for a long time, and it wasn't until I started working with Plugio I was amazed that within 3 months I had basically $10 come through the door. I said to my wife, I'm like, I've earned $10. This is incredible. And she was like, well, that's just $10. But for me, I understood that what it meant. Basically, it means this. It's the beginning of this path. It's so key. So a quick founder first recap is you want to build something that people want but profitable, preferably a little snowball. We take a holistic view of the founder and product strategy. We stack the deck in their favor. We go through a stair-stepping. We look at the founder and they do stage-appropriate learning. If they want, at some point, they can move over to debt capital or the VC track. And as we're choosing products, we look at force multipliers, product founder fit, market founder fit, and we want them to think small. We want them to hyper-iterate, take gradual steps, and really get that first $10, that first $100. So I want you to imagine, what if 50% of that, there's 2 million people every year who start this process. What if 50% of those went in at the top and started a founder first rather than the VC model? I mean, from what we're working on in the academy, we're seeing 20% of people are making huge strides. So imagine if 10% of 1 million people made huge strides. It could make such a difference. 12 billion coming in there. And what would the power law curve look like? Like, what would it look like? How many unicorns would be created? What other opportunities might be created? New kinds of funding models. Okay, so next we're going to go into how to validate and grow a startup without funding, which is the main reason why you're here. And this content is taken directly from Nugget. So, of course, there's, as I mentioned, there's 150 lessons there. So we can't fit all that into this short webinar. But this is some really key information that can help you. So how to validate and grow a startup without funding? Well, first of all, you want to start with an idea that stacks the deck in your favor. Second of all, you want to validate that idea by building a landing page, building a seed group, and validating your idea with that seed group and a subset of those that I call super seeds. And if you spend more than 2 weeks to a month on it, in my opinion, you should just fail fast and go right back to one and find another idea and just keep on cycling through this until you find a great idea for you. So let's start off by starting with an idea that stacks the deck in your favor. So pick an idea, stack the deck in your favor. There's so many opportunities to apply force multipliers, as mentioned, product founder fit, lifestyle, little snowball. You can use Nugget's 4,000 idea pool to get your ideas flowing. You can sign up for free on Nugget.one. And I suggest in the Academy that you work up 50 to 100 ideas and then start to qualify them. I think it's super important to have a lot of ideas to pick from. Don't get too attached to any one idea at the start. Actually, we have 4 modules and 49 lessons in the Academy just to get you to the point where you've picked one idea to validate. So next thing, build a landing page. A landing page is important. It's key. You need a place to send people to capture their email. Good copy is essential. A landing page, as we've seen in the Academy, a landing page does not need to be complicated. In fact, we've set landing pages into 3 states for the validation process: a vapor state, a liquid state, and a solid state. So the vapor state is all you need to start with. It's just a logo, a headline, a subheading, and an email form. Just from that, you can start to collect email addresses and start talking to people. Then once you've started talking to people and you're getting an idea of what they really want, because you can't know what they want. You have to speak to your customers first. That's when you add feature bullets. So now it's turned into what I call a liquid landing page. And I'll give you some examples of these in a second. And then once you're really validating this and getting real clarity about this, you can actually create high fidelity mockups and create a solid landing page. So here's an example of the Vapor landing page. It's just got a logo, happy, increase staff retention, make every day better, use our platform to add gamification to your workplace. And basically, all we're working towards here is, can I find people and can I get that first $10? Can I get people interested? And so you've just got to get people to this page and see if they'll give you their email address. Once you've spoken to people, then you can start to add product features. So here we're getting a bit more specific. So set epic work goals for individuals and teams. So in this case, the founder started speaking to people, and here was a feature that they wanted. So then thirdly, moving to a solid state landing page, this is when you've spoken to a lot more customers and you really understand what they want. And now you're like, okay, here is actual rendering of what this product can do. So something that I've found to be super important, incredibly helpful, is to plug in a Slack focus group into your landing page. So that means that point when they enter the email address, you auto invite them to a Slack group, and you add a link that never expires. Slack is an amazing way to nurture super seeds, to have asynchronous conversation with those guys, and to truly validate your product. So building a seed group. What is a seed group? So if you're familiar with the classic adoption curve, you'll know that companies like Facebook and Twitter and any company that exists out there and has a product, they go through this adoption curve. Well, what about when you don't have a product, before you have an adoption curve and you're validating stuff? Well, I basically call that the seed group. That's what happens before the adoption curve. And the seed group is people who are very hopeful that this idea will exist one day. They're early pragmatists. They really want it to exist. And they're all types of people. They might be innovators or early adopters or late majority. The point is that you're solving a problem that can really help them, and they kind of want to be part of that. From people who land on the landing page, as we've kind of seen what happens, we've seen that just 5% of those people will, if you use the right words and describe your idea well enough, 5% of those people will love that product and will want to pay. And by the way, this is part of the validation. So if it's a good idea, 5% will love it and they'll be quick to answer. They'll want to be super engaged. You can talk to them on a regular basis about it. 25% of people will want that product to exist, but they won't want to be super engaged. They'll just be happy to be on the list. 30% will be interested at the time they hit that landing page, but their interest will wane. And 40% will sign up because they thought, maybe that's a cool idea, but I'll just sign up just in case it goes somewhere, but they're not super interested. But with Plugio, just to give you an example, super seeds, which are the ones who are just so interested in what you're doing, everything changes when you have that landing page and you build that list of super seeds. They're like gold dust. These guys are really into the domain that you're into. They're rooting for your success. They absolutely love giving you feedback. They're quick to answer your questions. They want to give testimonials. They're an amazing source of referrals, and they want your product to exist and to pay for it. And they want to be part of creating it and helping you define it. And you will know when you get those guys And that is, they're a reason to get up in the morning. They change the equation. They absolutely change the equation. If I could say anything is the most important, it's getting these guys. So you find ways of driving traffic to your landing page, and you have conversations with people, and you try and find out who are the super seeds. So you get people to the landing page through these different growth strategies. Now, it's a bit too much. Obviously, it's beyond the scope of this webinar to get into this, but we go through all of this, in great detail in the Academy. But this is basically what you need to do, all these different ways of getting people to that landing page. And this process is literally one at a time process. So, just getting those first 10 people is work. It takes work, and there's just no way around it. So what we do in the Academy is we have a tracking system, and we basically let you specify what strategies you're going to use and let you check in what growth you've made, so you can really see the growth. Even if you're not seeing the money, you can see the growth. You can see that you are on an upward trend. This is incredibly important to just keep moving. This part is difficult. It's difficult to keep churning through this, and it is a dirge, but tools like this help you. And I would advise you, if you're doing this on your own, to set up a spreadsheet and just keep track of every new interaction, every growth like that. So the final part is, once you've built that seed group, you want to validate your idea with super seeds. And that is simply, you run customer interviews with super seeds. You can find that out from, you can look at how to do that through the Lean Startup. They've got great scripts for interviews. And then as you get more and more clear on your ideas, you start to mock up, and you send that to people. Slack is amazing for this. You can send screenshots to your seeds and your super seeds, and the most important thing is you need to get to the point where you've validated that your super seeds are willing to pay for this. And that just becomes clearer and clearer the more you get to know them and the more stuff that you show them about what you're doing. And so once your idea is validated, then you go ahead and you move forward with marketing and building. But you don't always validate your idea. So I'm going to give you an example of a founder who failed fast and moved on to another idea that's doing very nicely with validation. So he was super interested in authors as a market, and he created a landing page for this software, which is writing software. So he quickly built a list of 25 people, but very, very low engagement. No one joined the Slack, and he just found it super difficult to get any engagement in that. And that's a massive sign of it's not an it factor idea. So he iterated, and he moved to this idea, which was a homeschooler's idea. And so basically, this is a homeschooling app where people just can get an A+ as a parent, take the headaches out of legal requirements, use our Easy as Pie mobile app to take attendance, keep records, and keep your kid in legal compliance. So he got 22 on this list, and out of those 22 people, a very high engagement. These people were like, yes, I want this to exist. He got 2 super seeds from this. One of those runs a homeschool association. So this is like, who has thousands of members. So it's just a completely different story. And this is why that first $10, $100 iteration, validation iteration is so supremely important. So now that we've gone through that, I'm just going to have a very quick look at the Academy, and then we're going to wrap this up. So here we go. So the Academy is multiple things. It's actually a custom platform and also content. So it follows the founder first methodology. There are 12 modules with 150 lessons, actions, and discussions. And stages 1 through 4 follow the $100 validation iteration. To get you to that point. Stages 1 through 4 get you to an idea. Stages 5 through 7 are the $100 iteration, and stages 8 through 12 get you to 1,000 plus recurring revenue. That's the way that it's set out. So if you click on any one of those stages, it has this many lessons. Steps are split into small, manageable chunks, as you can see here. This is a pop-up from clicking on one of those tiles. We've also brought batches into it because we love Y Combinator and the way they do things. So we've tried to bring that batch dynamic. So batch accountability and mastermind group, and every batch has a private Slack group where you're very aware of each other's progress and working with each other. It truly created a virtual incubator feel. There's friendly competition between batch members, so you can see where each batch member's at, and that also friendly competition between all members. So it's inter-batch and also just everyone against everyone. Every founder gets a profile and a project profile where you can track your side project's growth. because you can't improve what you don't measure. And you know what? It's just so easy to just give up if you're not seeing massive results. But if you're just seeing small results, you can just keep plodding along. It's so important that you do some small little thing every day. This is that part. So basically, we make it super easy to check in your latest growth updates, and we're just about to release historical growth charts so you can go along and look at what you've done over time. Of course, I should mention that there's 4,000 ideas. That's how the Academy started, and those ideas to get you started. And as mentioned, they're part of one lesson out of those 150 lessons. So basically, the Startup Academy is a custom-built platform. It's a virtual incubator batch-driven process. There's 150 lessons, actions, and discussions. I would hope that you would get, if you go at a fast pace, you can get to revenue in 3 months. We've seen that. And if you go at a more regular pace, it's more like a 6 months to get to revenue. There's a lot of Slack mentoring by myself and also our lead mentor, Jeremy. So I just want to say thank you so much for being part of this presentation. I'm just going to post an offer. So that offer should have gone out to you right now. To join the Academy, would absolutely love you to join the Academy and be part of this Founder First movement that we're starting. I'll send you a link to the recording. We'll send any answers to any questions that you've asked that I haven't been able to get to right now. I want you to note that this is a single price, not a subscription, but we do have payment plans. So when you see $97 a month, it's not a subscription. It's a specific number of payments that will get you paid off. And once you're paid off, you'll be an alumni member and you'll have access to all our future features. So we are going to be launching a mentoring platform where we're going to try and get a lot of great guys to come in here. And I'm thinking about people like Rob Walling and other guys like that into this platform to help be mentors. Then we're going to rebrand as a virtual incubator, and we're going to launch an investor platform, which is going to work with a distributions focus rather than an equity focus. So the final little thing I want to say is, if you do sign up and join the Academy, after joining, we need a day or two just to match batches, because we want every batch to be nicely matched with a cross-section of founders. So the Academy doors and content will be open just after that. So don't be surprised that you don't get direct access to the content. And just remains to say thank you so much for looking at this webinar right here and listening to me. And good luck with the rest of your day. Thanks so much.